Hello. Red is live again. How is everybody? Is there anybody out there? Live again. There's my echo. I'd love to hear it. I think I shared this out on my community tab. Let me see if I shared out my own live. I'm going to check. I'm waiting on Lise. She is not here yet, so I can drop the link to her channel though and tell you a little bit about her and what we're going to be talking about. Yes, I did share this live. And yes, we are live. I have my tea. I was thinking about having a cup of coffee, but I don't really drink coffee that late. But I have this. And I like it because it says a little saying on the little tea bag. It says, laughter is the same in all languages. So that's sweet. Oh, I'm going to light my candle. Flames. Are there any flames out there tonight on a Friday? I hope you will come to my live. So, I don't know. I know a Friday can get busy, and I hope everything is going well. I haven't talked to Lise since Tuesday, I think. Tuesday, when I got my computer fixed. It might have been Wednesday. I'm not sure. One or the other. I'll say a poem while we wait. So this has become my favorite poem and a favorite poem of a lot of people that know my poems. So it's about the storm. And it has a Bible verse that I just found out where it is because I didn't remember where it was. I knew it was in Isaiah. It has the Bible verse, and quietness and confidence shall be your strength in it. That's in Isaiah 30, verse 15. Hi, Zeeblings Creations. Hello, hello. Hello. While I'm waiting for my guests to arrive, I'm going to say my storm poem. You say that no one cares for you? Well, that's not true, because I do, and God does too. Oh, that I could fix your problem. I'd mend you up. You'd no longer be stuck in that addiction or depression, the trials that come in rapid succession. But what can I do? I cannot fix you. I can't make you believe or even relieve that deep ache in your heart. Just where do I start? Don't do nothing, she yelled at me. Well, what should I do? Scream and shout and run about? Perhaps sit and pout? No, I'll fight a war upon my knees. In quietness and confidence shall be my strength. He keeps my prayers and my tears. Perhaps the overflow makes the rain to water all the pain upon the earth. I'll thank him for this thorn. I'll praise him even when I mourn, because he carries me through the storm. He walks to me on the tempest sea. The rain brings life back to my dying tree. And one day through the clouds, I'll see the rainbow. So that's in my book. That's in a 7-story tree. So there's a link below. If you send me a donation of any amount and you're in the United States, and send me your address, I will send that to you. So you can send me $1 and I'll send you my book if you're in the United States. And stickers. I have stickers. I will show you because I have them right here. I'm still waiting for my son. He might come by today. I made, yes, that's true. I made shish kebab today at lunch. I went live at lunch. And now I'm going live now. And hopefully Lise will be here. But I can talk. Y'all know I can talk. And then when she gets here, I'll bring her up. So those are my stickers. I have lots of little ones too. So it says there's 4 watching. Hello, everybody. You are welcome to just watch. But I don't have subscribers only on, so you can chat in the chat. I don't even have slow mode on, so we're just going to pray away the trolls, right? Lisa's here. Yay. Yay. And I have sound this time. I'm just not going to dilly-dally around, and I'm just going to bring Lisa up.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Yay, we did it.
Yay, we have sound. Oh, I should have went to the.
No, it was me. It was I couldn't. Never mind. It's technology. 2 more days of Mercury retrograde.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah. Let me get my volume up. So, what are we talking about?
Well, narcissists and toxic people. Yeah. So, and your channel, and let's talk about your group, because I feel like that's very helpful. Because my story is I was married to I thought he was just I thought he was just a little controlling. I thought he was just a little bit passive aggressive because he's not the grandiose type, And, I didn't even realize it until I was listening to some, channels, and I was listening to more and more channels on YouTube, and I was like, wow, I think he's the vulnerable type of narcissist. He's a covert type. So I was like, wow. But I always come across people who are like, don't label people. You're not a doctor. I'm like, no, I never said I was a doctor. But
right.
You say they have the traits. And so like whatever that's why I do like it that your channel says toxic relationships, because it's just like whatever you call it, whatever you want to call it, it's toxic, and you need to learn how to deal with it,
Exactly. And we can't wait around for someone to have a label, because they will never go to the doctor or anywhere to get that label. And so if you wait around without learning how to at least recognize what's happening and heal from it, then you're kind of spending your life, in this toxic situation, just hoping that the label won't be to narcissism. But does that stop the toxic behavior? If it isn't, usually not. Yeah.
It can be on somewhere on the spectrum. And gosh, the more I learn and the more I look back, like I came to a realization recently, and I kind of feel like safe talking about stuff. I kind of feel safer like talking about my dad now that he's gone on. I kind of feel safer. And I realized, looking back at some of the things my grandmother said and did, and the relationship she had with my mother, and that my uncle said to me one time, and it was just so curious. My uncle said, yeah, some people, and all he said was, some people have this, sweet things about their mother to say, and a nice relationship, but I don't have that. I just don't have that. And I was just like, wow. And so now I'm
Right.
realizing, I'm going, that's what was going on, because my mom and my grandmother, and she would act differently, although she did do some things with me. And I was like, that's what that was.
Mm-hmm.
Going, oh my goodness. And I named my daughter after her.
Oh, that's okay. It's a good name.
It's okay. It is okay, Lise, because I also named my son that's here in Denver, and he's like the most mellow and chill of all of my kids. He's like just the most chill kid of mine. And I gave him my dad's name as a middle name. So I'm like, it's okay. So yeah, it's wild to figure when a light bulb comes on,
It is. Mm-hmm.
It's wild. So, how long have you had your channel?
Oh my gosh. I want to say 5 years, 4 years, something like that. A while. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go and look like when your channel
Yeah,
started.
I'd have to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But like I started my channel, but didn't really do anything on it right away. I like started my channel in 2016. So that
I
is
want
another.
to say actively, I've been making videos for about 5 years. So, yeah.
And I came across your channel through through Queen Bean. And yeah, and that channel was really helpful. There was a lot of them that were helpful to me. I think the light bulb first went on for me with Lisa A. Romano's channel, and then Angie's channel, and I think Michelle Neves, and so, and it was just like, wow, it's helpful to have a name, like to not feel crazy, because that
yeah, and to have
is it me?
validation, right? And that's when you were talking about the group coaching. Somebody said today, they said that the number one thing they've been in group from the point of trauma bonding, totally zombified feeling of disassociation and not well, all the way through now into where they're pretty well into their healing, and they stay in group. And I said, why do you stay? And they said, because every time someone new comes in, every time we're talking about a situation someone else in group is going through, it validates the experiences that I had. And it reminds me to keep working toward whatever it is in my life that I want to heal, because there's so many, because this stuff is so pervasive and gets into every part of your life. And yeah, and they said that the validation was the main thing that was the most help for them.
Yeah. And I know one of the things I talked to you before about that I wanted to mention was that, so I my story is I separated from him in 2014, but we lived in the house together for 2 years. And yes, and we still had
talk about power play, right?
2 kids at home. Yeah. And it was funny because, and when I'm in the church, I was in the church, and I was in the evangelical, like Baptist church. And so it's like, no, you can't get a divorce. I mean, they don't want you to get a divorce for any reason, really. They want you to work it out no matter what, it's like the marriage is above all. And when we went to counseling with my pastor, he did mention like, oh, there's this book, Living with a Passive Aggressive Man.
Oh,
so that was the closest validation I had, was that my pastor actually said, hey, maybe, and when he mentioned books, I just like flat out said, was getting towards the end, you know, I was like, he won't read anything.
It's like, if there's a book for it, do I want to stay?
Really? Yeah. Should I stay or should I go? That's Mommy's book. Yeah, so that was the closest I came to validation. But so, and then in 2016, I moved out of the house, and it took like 4.5 years, and we were divorced in 2018. And then 2020, I got the smaller house in the divorce. And so 2020, I had this plan to downsize, sell the house, and leave Georgia and buy an RV and travel around in it and decide where I wanted to settle eventually. And I thought I wanted to be in California, but I'm in Colorado right now and I'm loving it. But
oh, good. Yeah.
But when I left, I'm like, and he did the thing with some of my daughters in particular, where he turned them against me, like the smear campaign. And then like my whole church, I lost my whole church community because of, you know, them thinking I'm the bad guy because I'm getting a divorce. So I'm the bad guy.
Right.
And then
yeah,
I'm pretty sure he cheated on me because he always went out of town all the time. I mean, he loved it. I found out like he asked for the TDYs. I mean, he always did ask for the TDYs, which is temporary duty. He was civilian. He was a civilian. He worked for the Air Force. But, you know, and it's like, he knew my background in that. And I learned my dad was a covert narcissist. They were just alike, and engineers, and just, I knew they were just alike, but what I didn't know is that they were both covert narcissists. So,
right.
And so he knew my background in that I was angry about my dad cheating on my mom. So he knew, you know, and so it's like, I'm pretty sure he cheated on me. It doesn't really matter now. I can't prove it, but you know, he turned all my daughters against me for a time. And there were things that I did too that I maybe, you know, shouldn't have done. I'm not perfect either, but
it's hard not to react to things like that. It really is, especially when you're at the end of a relationship. That's really hard.
And so, yeah. And so my tea is making me hot. So yeah, my daughters were, you know, upset about it. And, but now I'm talking to my middle daughter. So all of that. But I left Georgia, and I wasn't going to church anymore either. I didn't have my spiritual practice. Yeah. I'd like to talk about that too. I feel like that's helpful. I feel like my spiritual practice has been helpful to me. I was trying to do some other spiritual practice that really, I don't know.
Yeah, it has to work for each person.
Yeah,
that's why it's your spiritual practice, not the spiritual practice.
Yeah, I threw out my whole, you know, baby with the bathwater, sort of. You know, I threw out
your faith and
my faith in that, and I was kind of angry. In a way, it kind of helped me downsize, because I downsized so much. I fit everything I owned in my car. I was going to buy my RV in Georgia and, you know, get the stuff out of my house, but I couldn't buy my RV until I sold my house. So anyways, I just ended up going up to the St. Louis area and buying my RV. And so I had to fit everything I wanted to keep in my car. I had to downsize so much. And it kind of helped me with that. I had so many Christian things, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting rid of this. Oh, I'm getting rid of this. Oh, I'm getting rid of this.
Now you're tear it down.
It kind of helped me with that, because those were just things anyways. They didn't really have a spiritual significance, but, you know, and as I got involved with new people, and, you know, I got involved on YouTube, and then the next thing you know, I'm like, you know what? This person is toxic, and this person is toxic. I'm, you know, wanting to date this person, but like, you know,
the flags are flying.
Yeah. And I was ignoring them. You know, I was just like, oh, I've gotten away from the narcissist. I don't worry about that anymore. I don't, watch, I wasn't hardly watching
Right.
Angie anymore either. And it wasn't until I went through this thing on YouTube where I left this YouTube community, I was just like, there's a whole I think there's a whole lot of narcissistic traits going on in this YouTube community.
Oh yeah,
I
you
was
want
like,
to say? Oh yeah.
I
It's
was like,
funny. Like personally, I just
I need to
stay
get out of here.
away. I just do my thing, and it's
Yeah,
probably
just
not the right thing to do, but it is what I to do. I don't have the
no, it probably is.
energy for that. You know what I mean? Like that's I hear
Yeah.
this story that you're saying here over and over from good people.
Oh, I hear it from other people too. Like
Yeah.
last week, a couple of people came on my live. One person was starting to talk about his situation and he was trying to do a business, and people coming at him, and it really
Well, and it
damaged.
can happen within any community. Just because we
Mhm.
are survivors of narcissistic abuse does not mean we are healthy in community or healthy in relationship or healthy for one another. There's a lot of amazing people in the community, and there's a lot of toxic people in the community. And
Yeah.
we can't know someone remotely. You
Yeah.
just can't, because anyone can present what they want you to see. And so it's just, and
Yeah.
that's why, like, personally, I just try to keep the channel information and support, and keep the
Mhm.
politics out of it, and keep the,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Because it's,
I try to stay away from the politics too. Yeah.
yeah, I don't want the drama. Just,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Yeah. And I try to avoid the drama, and then, just makes you feel like, oh my goodness, I must be a drama magnet. Like, am I the problem? And then they trigger you too. And
Right. But it's not, it's just that you were a target.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they take the vulnerability and run with it when it's
Mhm.
offered. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so I decided, and it was funny because I decided to sort of like leave this community, but I wanted to like do it quietly and just like, I'm just like kind of,
Slip away.
let me just fade away. But they're like, no, we're
No.
going to kick you out. We're going to
Oh yeah.
cancel you.
You
And
see, and that's a sign that that energy and that community
whoa.
was not good for you anyway.
Yeah. And they did a whole like live stream about to bash me. And I'm just like, how is this okay on YouTube? Like, how is YouTube okay with this? And it got all these views.
I am always surprised I don't run into things like that. I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah.
Personally, for myself,
Just like
you
not,
know, like I'm sure it's out there.
it's better just like, I'm like, I should have just ignored, like,
Actually, I do know of one. I do know of one that was against myself and Angie. And
Oh, wow.
whatever. I
Yeah.
think in situations like that, it's like all you have to do is turn it off.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
anyone that goes with them and believes it and whatever, bye.
Yeah. It was so hard because it was like the same sort of thing. You're in this community, and I had people there, and I had friends in it that I thought would stay my friends, right?
Yep.
They were in that community, and so they didn't want to be put out of it like I was. And I think they went along, and I was like, wow, I never thought that you would side with them.
And it hurts, doesn't it? It becomes personal when if you step back from it, you realize it was just dodging a bullet, and it was just,
yeah.
It's just that you saw the toxic all at once. That's what a smear campaign does, is it brings up the toxic, and then you see the toxic all at once, and everyone who's willing to buy into it without question, you see it all at once, and it hurts, and then it's personal. But then when you step back from it, you go, wait a minute. Clearly, those people aren't good for my life.
Yeah.
And goodbye.
Yeah. And I feel like almost it was easier for me to deal with the people I saw as narcissists. And this is funny. I'll tell you a funny a funny joke about all of that. So I was like I said, I was seeing all of these people, and I was in this group, and it was going really good. I was in this group with women, and we were doing this girls chat every Thursday, and we would do it on a different girls channel. And this is in a van life RV community. And so, you know how after, well, I don't know if you don't go live that often on StreamYard, do you?
No, I just use YouTube platform.
Okay. Well, I don't know how it goes going live on YouTube, but anyways, I was I was running my mouth. And so but not until after the live ended. We had the live on a certain, and it was going really good. We were talking about like relationships and stuff, and we would have all girls on the panel, and we talk about different things and everything. And so, but this drama was already, going on. This drama was starting up. And so the live goes off, and I'm just talking to, I think, my girls, and I'm not live, right? But they put the link in the chat, right? So anybody can click on it. So this guy that's in the community, and he's just comes up, and I start saying the narcissist, but I was just talking about the men. I wasn't talking about the women. And it turns out one of those women in that group turned on me too, and she might be one also, but I don't know. I don't know. Toxic at least. But anyway, so this is when I got in trouble because, like you can't call the narcissist out. So this man heard me because he came in the backstage, right? He heard me say that he was a narcissist. And it just, it just stirred up more and more. More and more stuff, and it was just a mess. And I was just like, well, I wish I hadn't said that, but anyways, it was done. And I thought it wasn't live, and I didn't expect him to hear it,
right?
And then
it
was just insane. And it's sort of I feel like it's sort of a litmus test. I mean, if you say someone's, if they hear it or something, they get angry, and where the codependent, do you ever have people like this saying, am I the narcissist? I went through that too.
I think most people get angry when their name called. You know what I mean? And they get, I don't know, toxic people, like, why label? And I get it. You were just, who cares, right? Like you said a word that makes sense because of it, based on the behavior he was doing. We don't know if he is one or isn't one, whatever. You just said a word. And this is a tricky one because I have heard people who claim to be empathic, who people would assume are empathic people, empaths or whatever you want to call them, codependent, empaths. I don't like either of those labels either. So I'm just I do not, because I do not think everyone with high levels of empathy is an empath. And I do not think that being an empath is any better than anything else. It just means that you have a high level of, your radar is on and your feelings are on toward others. Being a healthy empath that I'm interested in, and being a healthy, you know what I mean? Learning when to turn. So in that case, you feel this toxic energy, and as a healthy empath, you have to back away from it. You have to put up boundaries, and you have to, and just because you call someone narcissistic does not mean you're toxic. It does not mean you're bad or wrong. It just means you're calling it like you're seeing it because you feel it. You're getting your prickles on the back of your neck. You're being, you're witnessing it. That's part of empathy, right? Is being able to feel what other people's state is. And and so, I don't like labels in any kind. I use them because people relate to them, but personally, it's not my I prefer to do it the same way I do. Instead of saying toxic people, I'll say a highly empathic person or someone with high levels of empathy. That
Yeah, because I do feel like I have high levels of empathy, but it was like not healthy because I didn't have good boundaries.
Yes.
I was letting people use me and like
that is a lifelong. I mean, we could talk for hours about that topic right there.
Yeah.
Letting people use you. We aren't letting like, hi, I'm wearing a sign that says use me +1 on my back, and then I'm walking around saying, what can I do for you? No, it's that we accept and tolerate those that will use us, and there's no reciprocation. We're so used to transactional relationships that we fall into them because someone's nice to us and they use us. That doesn't mean it's healthy. I was just talking with someone about this today, about how like the difference between that and truly reciprocal gifting between two people of whatever it is. You know, you can still be able to give and like do things for people without being classified as codependent and without being used.
Yeah.
But it has to have some reciprocation, at least sometimes.
That's what I'm trying to find. Like I need
it's tricky.
balance.
It's tricky because it's like our first, at least for myself, our first go-to thing when you're around people is to do things for them. Help is to not, even if it's just accommodating things so you're not causing problems.
Yeah.
Instead of just being ourself and allowing what will happen to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to get in more of a balance with my kids. So I realized that, you know, it's kind of like I'm starting all over. It's like they're grown and like before the divorce, it's like I thought I was gonna try and stay with their father and we're gonna work things out. And he built this big house in Georgia in the country and like he's taking forever. But this is teaching me patience. That's a good, Christian virtue. This is teaching me patience. Someday he'll finish the house. And I felt like it was like it was almost like a passive aggressive thing, He was like, I know you want me to finish this, but I'm not going to.
Just to control it because of the toxic nature of how he is.
Yeah. And he just was so it was just so difficult. And like everything I did or cooked or everything I was like, oh, but if you could just, if you just could lose 20 more pounds. And this when we first started going out, and like that was a red flag right there.
Yeah. If you could just do it this much better, if you could be just this much of this, more this or less that.
Yeah. If you could just, and this is why I ended up being such a good cook, because he's like, well, if you do this will be better. And I went through years and years of trying to be better. And, but in a way that's what made me such a good cook. And now I do.
There's benefits to what we learn from being under that much control of someone else, as long as we start using it for ourselves and let go of the stuff we don't want to do anymore.
Yeah. Like I couldn't find a regular job. I didn't work. He didn't want me to work. He didn't really want me to work. And then at the end, he acts like, he didn't have very much to say to complain about me, but he was like, she won't get a job. And it's just like, for years you didn't want me to. It's like, you didn't want me to get a job.
I love when they flip the script like that. Like it's just so.
Because he would even be like, well, why should you get a job? Because you'll just make minimum wage, and I'm an engineer, so I make $50 an hour, so I'll just work overtime. And he would work overtime, and he loves to look like the martyr.
Oh yeah. Coverts are an interesting type.
Yes. And it's not always, and it's hard because I would hear some videos on coverts and it wouldn't go. Like I think I'm not sure who it was, but someone did a video and talking about them being lazy and you're working and they're not. And
No,
like
they come in all walks of life. That's the thing. It's not a classification. It's a
Yeah.
way of twisting narcissistic traits to be hidden. So that can be anyone, like any
Mhm.
personality type can twist
Yes.
the narcissistic traits instead of being overt and demanding and arrogant. I mean, my grandpa was a classic malignant narcissist.
Wow.
He would sit on the couch and he would watch television. And he liked to watch this one evangelical preacher who had women in the background. I don't know who it is. It was back in the 90s. And
Oh,
he'd say, that man, that if I were there, those women would want to sit next to me.
really?
Oh my gosh.
My dad.
Why would they? And, you know, it wasn't cute. It was gross. He'd walk in the house and he'd say, why'd you dye your hair that color? You know, that kind of thing. And you're an adult. You're not a teenager. You're not a kid. Like, just, he'd say, you know, gosh, you're looking lazy to his daughter. And
Oh my goodness.
who just like flew down 8 hours to see him and, you know, whatever it was. He was terrible. That's very overt, right? Like super overt with the behavior, super arrogant. And so what a covert does is they just take that and pretend that isn't their reality, but it really is what they're thinking. And so
Yeah.
they get passive aggressive with it.
He would say it sometimes.
Yeah, but it's subtle, or they'll say it and you're like, what? And they're like, haha, just kidding.
And you think it's like a joke. Like my dad, like
Yeah.
I think back on some of the things my dad would do, and he used to always sing that Mac. My mom would think it was so funny, you know. It's hard to be humble when you look as good as me. It's like a Mac Davis song from the 70s. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then when they got older, you know, my mom says like, oh, you know, the Billy Joel song, I love you just the way you are. You say, I love you just the way you were. like really, Dad?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, it's just, yeah. And so, yeah, what I'm getting at though is that like they can come in all types. They really can. The type like you're
my dad
describing,
could be nice sometimes, you know.
the lazy ones, the workaholic ones.
Yeah, my ex is a workaholic.
There's grifter ones who will live off you, and then you know you can't get them. They'll marry you after knowing you a week so that they can get your house. You know. Oh yeah, I hear all kinds of stories.
Yeah. I had a person come to my Airbnb, and like I don't say that he was one. I don't really know because I didn't really even know him long enough. But I didn't really even know him long enough. But he came to my Airbnb in August 2018, right when we were finally going to do the what do you call it? Mediation. We did the divorce mediation in August 2018. Just the timing of it, I was just like, and he just was so sweet, so handsome. He was from Syria, and he had me fooled for a little bit, but I kept thinking like he wanted a green card.
Yeah.
He wanted a green card, and he was like, I'm like, it's too good to be true. He was too much younger than me. And then I don't think he realized I wasn't divorced yet. He didn't realize I wasn't even divorced yet. But he stayed in contact with me when he supposedly left. And then I was divorced in September, and he was going to come back, but I was like, I can't, you know. He was Islamic too. And so it's a crazy story.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked.
No, it wouldn't work. I thought I was going to convert him, which is ridiculous. But anyways, not if you knew me at the time, you would understand. I was a crazy evangelical Jesus freak, and so it was a really odd odd couple.
Pairing, yes.
Yes, but he was such a good actor. This is what I say about my ex, but to be fair, I do say I was acting too. Like we had, the 5 kids, the big house, we were at church all the time. We worked together at church. We taught the little kids in Awanas at church together. I mean, we had the white picket fence and all of that. And so, yeah. And then it just crashed and burned.
What do you think you were acting?
I was acting the part, the same part he wanted, to play of the good wife, and he's the good.
How did you feel when you were acting? Did you know you were not being true to yourself, or how did you feel?
I don't think I did know. I think maybe I was true in some sense to myself, to what my, because my Christian beliefs were that, I can't get a divorce. I have to make this work. And my mom stayed. See, and that was the thing that
so you were acting, but you were acting so that you could maintain status quo.
Yeah, I feel like I was acting in a lot of ways, but
did
not.
you? Because I know that feeling of acting a part.
Yeah,
and it always feels really constricting. It feels really like something's missing in your life, or there's something dissatisfying.
Oh yeah.
And you find yourself in the devaluing of the narcissistic person, as well as them devaluing you. And you find yourself in this devaluing cycle with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or you do your very best to avoid the devaluing through the acting.
Yeah. I didn't think that, I didn't know what, I still really don't, but I mean, I have hopes of it and I think it exists, but I didn't think, I guess he tricked me and I really thought that he loved me. But now I see it more like he's really not capable of it. He's really not capable of the unselfishness and he's really not.
Mm-hmm.
He really wasn't capable of it. He tried.
There's a lot of grief around that for people, isn't there? Like a lot of having to come to grips with an awareness that your husband or wife, mother or father, or whatever it is, can't love like a healthy individual. They love, and that it's transactional, and that it's whatever it gets them and how it serves them. You ask a narcissist, why do you love me? They'll list the things you do for them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it was. It was like, and I realized that with my dad, and it was a slow, like, dawning, it's like, no, he doesn't. And I was so often chasing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see that, it wasn't long after I was married, and I could see that, what did I do? Because I married someone who's just like my dad. I didn't even realize, like, when I was a teenager, I didn't think of my dad as an engineer because he was a technical writer for IBM. But then my mom at one point sent me my birth certificate, and it listed the father's occupation, and it said engineer, and I was like, I knew it. I just married out of the frying pan into the fire. I just married someone just like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh no.
What have you learned from that you have had to make adjustments with, or find healing for, or have you been able to figure out why is that comfortable for you? I mean, we know why, because he's just like your dad, but you know what I mean? Like, have you figured out the parts of it so that you're not repeating?
That's a good question. I hope I have. And so, like, I was so young too when I got married. And then when I got upset, when I left Georgia, I was sort of like mad at God. And I sort of sowed my wild oats like later.
Mhm.
And that too, I was like, and I was just like, I sort of gave up on finding a long-term relationship. And I was just like, well, this is what, most people say they did in their 20s, like before they got married. And instead I'm doing it in my 50s, after I got married. And, I would recognize, and I was just like, okay, I'm just using this. So I would be just like, I'm done. Okay, I'm done. And then I would ghost them, because I was just like, oh, he's toxic. I can tell, there was one guy that said, oh, I'm looking for someone with uh, long hair, big, you know, big breasts and long nails. Well, 2 out of 3 isn't bad because my hair is short, so. And I was just like thinking like, wow, dude, why don't you go find a hooker on the Las Vegas Strip, okay?
Why don't you go buy one?
Like, adios. And I just ghosted him. And then he actually messages me and all angry. Are you ghosting me? I'm like, oh, please leave me alone.
Right.
Yeah, boo. Oh man, it was just, yeah. And I don't know. I hope so. Like, I'm taking another break, and I got on the dating app prematurely. I was celibate for 3 years, like 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. And then I was so lonely and I got on a dating app, and I went on one date with this guy, and I was at that point, I was still looking for a husband, and I was thinking I was going to go to this man's house, and I told him I wasn't going to sleep with him. And he said, oh, come over here, we'll watch a movie and you can sleep in my guest room. And so he lived a couple hours away, and I got date raped.
Oh.
It was awful.
Oh.
And I totally wasn't ready. And then I was celibate another year after that, and then the green card guy happened again. But at least that time I slept with him, but I felt more ready, and it was my choice. But then afterwards, I'm like,
was it?
That was all fake.
Right? Yeah, that's it.
That was all fake. And he only, I felt like he only slept with me to get me. It was right before he left, and he wanted to have that connection. He wanted to get me. He wanted to make sure he had me hooked on him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that was the only reason he did that. So I felt like that was fake too. And then I was celibate another year. And then that was when, at first it was mostly my oldest daughter, but I knew she was influencing my younger daughters. And it was mostly my oldest daughter that I was having issues with, and my oldest son. And so then by 2019, I was celibate mostly 5 years, except for the date rape, which doesn't count, and the green card guy. So I was celibate for 5 years, and I was really lonely. And then my daughters aren't talking to me. I was just really, I got almost suicidal.
Yeah.
And then I just went off and sowed my wild oats. But it was like so horrible that I had this nightmare, at least, because I was like, this isn't even better than, because my ex narcissists are good at sex. That's all they do. Yeah. They can't have the emotional connection. So I was like, this isn't, it wasn't, first of all, I was going against everything that I had believed before. And so I was just being this wild person. And it was only like for a month. And it was awful. And then, I come across all these toxic people.
Right.
I just meet more time. I'm like, I don't think there's any, you know, I don't think there's any good men out there anymore. I don't know, but I'm trying to not be cynical anymore. So anyways, so I'm in I'm like, I don't think I'd get on the dating apps. It seems like there's so many fake people. There's so many narcissists, yes, and married people,
Oh yeah.
cheating people.
Boundary pushers.
It just
Oh
you
yeah.
just can't get. Yeah, I got
People saying what you want them to hear. They
yes,
want what
exactly.
they think you want to hear so that they can get whatever they
Mhm.
want from you. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just they either want sex or they're looking for money.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it was interesting because when I went through my sister-in-law passing away, I went out to California in my RV after I left St. Louis in November. I came here to see my son, and then I went to see my niece in Arizona, and then I went to my brother's and my sister-in-law and to see my nephew in Los Angeles. And my sister-in-law was she was dying of cancer.
Mm.
um, I had this one point where I got stressed. I was with her, and she was kind of going downhill, and she wanted, and she was kind of uh, she definitely wasn't a narcissist. She was more codependent like me and my brother, but she wanted me to go get her a bedpan, and because she was having trouble getting to the restroom, and I didn't want to leave her alone because she had had points where she got um, she had to go in the hospital, and her friend, my brother was at work, and her friend had to call the ambulance at one point, and she went to the hospital at Thanksgiving. And my brother didn't tell me that until I didn't find that out until after I got there, which was after Thanksgiving. And so I didn't want to leave her, and she made me go, and so I went just down the street to try to get her a bedpan. And I came back. Her machine is beeping. She was on oxygen. Her machine is down. Her machine is beeping. And I'm like, and so it was just so stressful. She's like, yes, it started after you left. And so I'm like trying to call the person,
Oh no, yeah.
people on the, and I'm like, I'm like, this is stressing me out. And I was thankful that, I wasn't at that time staying in the house with them. I was on my brother's other property, staying in my RV. So it was like after that happened, I was just like for an outlet, and I thought I was gonna I was waiting on inheritance money from my dad that was in the court system in California, and I was going to try and buy something in California, but California is so expensive too. But anyways, I got on the dating apps again, and so, but just because I was like stressed, and I was like,
A lot of people will do that when something they can see that it's not going to work for them. They can see that. I mean, do dating apps or don't do dating apps, whatever. There's no judgment on it, but a lot of people recognize after being in narcissistic relationships, they just can't handle how much toxic there is on those things, and so they choose not to. And then the second there's a massive stress, it's like the first thing they're turning to, because it is that, I guess, codependent sort of nature that, and it's we're looking for a release or a distraction.
Yeah, and I wasn't doing what was not good, which I should have turned back to, is I wasn't doing I wasn't practicing my spiritual practice. I was I was still away from God, and I get on that, and it's just like, no, nothing. I went on, I walked this guy walked a dog with me. I went on a walk with this one guy. That was probably maybe the best date. I mean, I wasn't interested in this guy at all, but anyways, he didn't he didn't do anything and he was a nice guy. So I was like,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
But that was all that came of that. And then my sister passed away, and I was there like a month, and she passed away in January
Mm.
2021. And then there were just other things with my brother and issues that, you know, I never faced. I don't, I still don't, I'm not sure, but my brother does have some of the traits that my dad had,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know that he really would be diagnosed as that. I don't know. But there were issues with my brother that came up after my sister-in-law passed away. And I went away. I left my RV at my brother's property, and I flew back to my friends in St. Louis and babysat her dog for a month just to get out of there. And then we thought my RV was broken, but it wasn't. And my my uh, my RV was parked at my brother's little house, and it would trip up his electricity, and the electricity would go out. And but it ended up being his house that was doing that, and
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
RV was broken. And so I was in his house. I stayed in his house for a month, but I was actually closer to my sister-in-law than to my brother, so it was um, it was just difficult, and um, just a lot of things that went on with in our family that I wasn't being totally honest about either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then my parents really didn't do anything about. You know, my brother would hit me, and they wouldn't punish him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I never thought of it as like abuse, and it's like that's abuse, and I
And yet you
actually
have trauma from it, right? Like,
yeah, yeah, and I witnessed my other siblings being abusive to my brother too, so that's why, like, you know,
mm-hmm.
it's like we were being abused. Not that my parents were more like neglectful, and then my dad, and I just realized like all the problems my brothers had. um, it you know that father son relationship is so important, and my dad never validated them or encouraged them or said, hey, you know, you could do this. They were so smart and everything, and like my oldest brother died of heroin addiction, and
Oh, yeah.
my brother Paul died first in 2002, and he was in prison. And it's just like, and I'm like, I mean, I hate to, it wasn't, of course, all my dad's fault, but I just feel I see the consequences of just not validating your children, and not
Mm.
um, you know, nurturing them and encouraging them. And
Well, you can see the effects on 5 different people of the narcissistic upbringing,
yeah.
and how each one of you has different difficulties and struggles because of it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, there's 7 of us actually.
7, sorry. Yeah, 7 of you.
Yeah, five boys and 2 girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
you can see in each of you, the way
mhm,
that has affected your life.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And then you know, my sister ended up in an abusive relationship. And later on, I saw that. I was like, yeah, because, you know, I
Modeling
saw my mom,
earlier. Yep,
I
that's
saw
what.
my mom putting up with it.
Well, it's more than that. It's yes, and what we grow up with is a norm.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's not only what we witness, but it's what we receive, and it's normal to have transactional love from a parent, or abusive love, so to speak, where neglectful, and a child is looking for validation of who they are, and they're looking for connection with their parents, right? When you think about what children are looking for and what they don't know they're looking for it. They're just children being children. And it's natural to want to feel loved and taken care of and nurtured and protected and all of that. And when you have a narcissistic parent, you just don't have those things.
Yeah.
And so that becomes, unfortunately, even though we know it, even though we can like know that we grew up that way, we don't want that. It can be what is comfortable. It's a really interesting paradigm, right? Where it's comfortable to be treated that way, even though logically you're like, no, I don't want to be treated that way.
Yeah.
And when we don't know, like your sister probably didn't have any clue when she stepped into it all. When we don't know, we're going with sort of like what our subconscious is used to. And yeah, it's tricky to unwind for people.
Yeah, and I feel like my sister definitely has a lot of those traits herself, and so it's difficult.
It's very difficult. Yeah,
it's difficult to say like what who's to blame, but there's never any excuse for someone.
You can't be a healthy person in a toxic relationship. You can do your very, very best if you're stuck in one to gain healthy skills for some of your life and to be as best as you can possibly be to yourself with help, with therapy or coaching or something to help you. I mean, I think I just either have a video about it today or no, next week. I have one about that. Where or maybe it was today's, I don't know, but it was, you know, that you can be, if you stay in things like this, you have to.
I think it was today. I think I did.
Yeah, when you stay in them, you are going to be experiencing unhealthy relationship style with someone else, and you can do everything by the book, healthy, like as written by, you know, experts who tell you how to behave in a healthy way, and it'll still go wrong because you have a narcissist on the other end thwarting your efforts and twisting your words, and you're going to get reactionary. You're either going to get reactionary or have to gray rock. And when you gray rock, that's not the healthiest response to another human being.
Yeah.
It's a necessary response. And it's the healthiest thing you can do in a toxic relationship for yourself. But when you're talking about how to, it doesn't make for healthy relationships, right? Like to gray rock someone, no. If you were in a healthy relationship with a friend or a partner or whatever, and you did that, you'd be dismissive.
Yeah.
But with a narcissist, it's your only way. So people get these traits, or they get shut down, or they get what we call the narcissistic fleas, because they're just surviving and they're navigating these toxic relationships. And so it can be really hard after many, many years to see who the toxic one is. Like you're saying, sister. Yeah.
And so my father-in-law is narcissist, and he's the grandiose, and that's why like my ex would always say, well, I'm not like my dad, or you know, or blame things on his dad, you know, well, my dad this, my dad that, my dad, you know, beat me, and you know, my dad beat me when I was little, but then we have to go see them every Thanksgiving. And then my in-laws ended up separating, but not divorcing. So they separated, and he got his own place, but they didn't want to split up the money. And so they, and that was like, in I think 2002, right? And so, and a very sad thing, and I did see a video that somebody did on one of the channels, was my mother-in-law said to me, I wasted my whole life.
Yep.
And it was so sad. And I was just like, it made me so sad that she said that. I said, but you raised your 3 sons. And she's like, yeah, well, I did that, you know. And I never thought I ended up in the same place. I'm like, you know, I
that's a hard one to come to grips with. It is a really sad and challenging thing when you recognize that.
30 years too, you know.
Yep.
And but I don't see it, and that is like what the title poem for my Red Poems is about. That I kind of took it as, well, I raised my kids. Maybe that just was the purpose of that, you know, that connection with him. I raised my kids, and
you know what?
I was perfect, but
if you make a choice in life and you recognize it's not the choice for your life any longer,
yeah,
and you make another choice, it doesn't serve you to go back and be really overly emotional about the thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's sad, and also let's not waste any more time with it.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving forward and moving on toward what it is we want for life, so that it isn't so sad for this other part of our life.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. And I feel like this second half of my life is going to be the best part, you know?
Good. Yes.
Whereas I thought before, and like, I just put too much, because I wasn't getting that emotional. And that's why it was so devastating for my kids for him to turn some of my kids against me, is because I didn't have that good emotional connection with him. I thought I was going to get that from my children. And I think that's the same thing with my mom, because I think that's why my mom had 7 children. You know, it's like my mom had 7 children and I have 5 children. And I just see so many parallels, but I'm not going to stay. It worked out okay for her, but you know, she had to give up some of herself, I feel like.
Oh, you give up a lot of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, insane with him. And she saw herself as so inferior. Like I was showing old pictures today. You know, she saw herself as so inferior. She would be like, look at a picture of my dad and be like, can you believe, my sister said, she said to her, can you believe I got him? You know, and it's like, Mom, what do you think? Like, you're a beautiful woman too. You know, it's like, you're not chopped liver, Mom.
That's kind of how my grandma was with my grandpa. Yeah.
Yeah.
They become invisible, and yeah,
and they just live with it, you know. And then my mother-in-law too, and I think that's another reason why. And she's like 80 now. That just blew my mind when I realized that. I was like, she turned 80. They were younger. They're younger than my parents, but and they're still alive. My parents are deceased. So my mother-in-law doesn't want to deal with anybody because of dealing with her. My father-in-law for all those years. She just doesn't want to, you know, and that's why she doesn't, you know, they just don't do the divorce, and he just whatever. And he got serious. It was, it's just crazy things that go on in these dysfunctional families. It's just crazy some of the things that go on. When he got serious, when my father-in-law got serious with someone, they tried to trick the person he was with, and say that they were divorced, but they weren't. We all knew that they weren't.
Right. Like,
really? Like, what? Are you gonna get remarried? You know?
I'm gonna have to go in a minute here because I have a 5:30 and I need to.
Yeah, we're at an hour. But thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
This is good. I'm glad my sound works now.
I know, right? It all works. It's
yeah, and it was so simple. So here I was worried, you know, I was like, oh no, I need a new computer. Oh no. What's
it was
wrong?
just a quick fix. Good.
Yeah, he didn't even charge me.
Oh, good.
So I just gave him a good review, and
excellent.
So it worked out. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're here. I'm glad.
Yeah, it's good to meet you.
Yeah, I hope to stay involved over there with your channel, and I still have I have Lisa's link in my featured channels, and I still have Angie's link there. And so they're still going on with Angie's channel, right?
I believe they're editing older videos into shorts and shorter videos to keep the channel going. So the information stays up there and, you know, it continues in that way.
That's
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You go.
I will see you over there, I guess, or over here.
Yeah, you'll see me around.
See you around. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's good to come on. Have a good weekend.
Yes, you
Yeah.
too.
Everybody else too. Have a good weekend.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, take care.
Wrap this up. Bye, everybody.
Bye.